Hi everyone, this is part 1 video on Razor Pages CRUD sample by implementing one-to-many relationships using EFCore. Okay, so what is Razor Pages? Razor Pages is a simplified web model. Okay, it is one of the technology in .NET application. Okay, server-side applications. Compared with MVC template, Razor Pages won't have a controller. Okay, it is almost like a MVC architecture only, Razor Pages, but it won't contain controller. Okay, which means Razor Pages is a combination of views and models. Views are nothing but the CSHTML. Okay, the route will be configured within the Razor Pages. Okay, since there is no controller, right? So in the view page only route can be configured. Okay, and basically our Razor page composed of two files. One is c dot chhtml dot cs, that is called model. Only dot chtml, that is called view. Okay, these two files combinedly make a Razor page. Okay, so in this demo we are going to implement a sample CRUD example by making relation between two tables with one to many. Okay, so here are two sample scripts for creating two tables, one parent table and one child table. If you observe here, employee table, right? So this is the parent table, okay? And here another table, that is employee addresses, which is a child table. So now our relation will be one to many. That means one employee can have multiple addresses in the employee addresses table. Okay, here if you see employee ID, this is nothing but the ID of our employee table. So here we are using it as a foreign key in the employee address table. Okay, so here in these tables we are going to have one employee with multiple addresses. Okay, I have created the tables and I have inserted one sample data also. If you observe here, on left hand side we have employee table, and right hand side we have employee addresses table. Here I have inserted one employee record, and in the employee address table you can see multiple records, but the employee ID is equal to the ID in our employee ID employee table. Okay, so this, from this we can understand here these two tables have one to many relationships. Okay, to create a Razor page application, best choice is to use the Visual Studio 2022. Okay, which is a rich IDE for developing the .NET applications. Okay, another approach is you can use the .NET CLI command for creating the projects. Here, due to my system not supporting Visual Studio 2022, I am using the CLI. But if you have an option to install Visual Studio 2022, go for it. Okay, so here is the command for creating the Razor page application using .NET CLI. Okay, command is like .NET space new space, and here is template name. Okay, here I want to create the Razor pages, right? I have to give the template name like web app. Okay, and -o, that means create an output directory for my file. Okay, and name of your project. So let's run the command. And here our project got successfully created. Since I am using CLI for creating the application, right? For development, I'm going to use the Visual Studio code editor. Okay, not Visual Studio 2022. It is a code editor. Okay, so let's open my project in the Visual Studio code editor. Okay, here is our Razor page application. If you go to .cs project file, you can see the framework, target framework, which is .NET 7. Okay, so first let's explore the existing files. Okay, so first thing we can see here is program.cs file. Go to program.cs file. Okay, here only one service is registered. That service is nothing but the Razor Pages service. And there are quite few middlewares in this program.cs file configured. So if you observe, there is a if condition and some middlewares. So these middlewares only execute here, not operation is added. prefixed here. That means these middleware should be executed only not in development environment. That means not local, either production or testing environment. Okay. So here exception handler middleware is registered and a page is configured to it. Okay. And here use HSTC. Yes. Okay. Okay. So these middleware will send an header to the client. Client nothing but the browsers. Okay. That request must be secured. Means only HTTP's request only should send to the server. For that purpose, this middleware can be used. And here there is one more middleware like HTTPS redirection to redirect a non-HTTP into HTTPS URL. Okay. And here another middleware like use static files. So if you have any static files like JS, CSS, or images, those kind of static files will directly return from here. Okay, it won't execute further steps. So the use static file middleware help to deliver the static files and use routing that enables the .NET Core endpoint routing and authorization middleware and map Razor pages routing. So this is going to map our Razor pages routing, okay, to load the respective Razor page based on the route. Okay, that is about program.cs. And here app settings.development.json and app settings.json files are there. So here we can configure any app settings that we need. For local development, I will configure my connection string in this app settings.development.json file. And here you can see folder like www root folder that contains CSS, JSS files. So all the static files in our application must be added into this www root folder so that in the program.cs file we have configured use static files, right? So this middleware will fetches the static files inside of the www root folder and delivers them. Okay. And next, this is the pages folder. Here we contain all the Razor pages. I have mentioned, right? .cs and CSHTML file combinedly makes a Razor page, right? Here you can see error Razor page, okay, and index Razor page, privacy Razor page, okay. And here there are several other files like view start, just like MVC. It's going to specify the layout name, okay, and view import all global namespaces can be imported in this file. And inside of the shared folder we have layout Razor page, okay. Layout Razor page is nothing but the master page that will contains the header and footer, okay. And here there will be a rendered body. So here in this main element we have rendered body tag, right? In this place our requested Razor page will be rendered. If you request error page, that page gets rendered here, okay. So that's all about the existing Razor page structure, okay. Since we have created our tables, right? So to communicate with our tables from our application, we have to install entity framework. Okay, entity framework is a ORM framework that can make our application interact with the database. Okay, so to set up the entity framework and database context into our application, we need to install few NuGet packages. Okay, let's install them. First thing, such like EFCore NuGet, and you can see the top link, right? Click on it. Okay, if you are Visual Studio user, you have a rich UI interface where you can search the package manager. There will be a package manager UI interface. So from there you can install, or you can open the terminal instead of the Visual Studio 2022 and install this package manager command. But we are using CLI, right? I am going to copy the command from here. Okay, copy the command, open the terminal, paste our command, and install the Microsoft.NT Framework Core NuGet package. Okay, after installing package, you can check its reference in the .cs project. Okay, you go to .cs project, see here. Our package got added here, reference. Okay, so now we have installed NT Framework Core package. And we are dealing with SQL Server, right? SQL database. Okay, for that we have to install one more dependent package of Framework core for SQL Server. Okay, search like EFCore SQL NuGet, and you can see a link like Microsoft.ntframeworkcore.sql server. Click on it. Okay, copy the command, open the terminal, paste our command. Okay, Microsoft.ntframework.sql server package, install it. Okay, I have successfully installed. So using this NT framework, how can we interact with our database means with the classes, with the help of creating POCO classes, we interact with our SQL database. Okay, so we have to create a class like database context. So this database context class will act as a database in our C# code. Okay, it is like a replica of our database, and we have to create classes for each individual table in our SQL database. Okay, we have employee and employee addresses tables right here. We have to create two POCO classes in our application, like employee class and employee addresses class. And these classes must be registered in our database context class. Then database context can interact with our SQL server very easily. Okay, so first let's create the table classes like employee and employee addresses class. Okay, so first thing, let's create a folder like data. Inside of data folder, let's create one more folder like entities. Okay, so inside of entities, let me create my first table class, that is employee class. Okay, okay, here is our employee class. Now what we have to do means we have to add all the table columns as a properties inside of this class. Okay, so let me copy things. Okay, let's add it here. Okay, let create them as properties. Okay, id next public string, a question mark that represent nullable column. Okay, first name, public string, last name, public string, job role. Okay, that is my employee class. Now let's create one more class, that is our employee addresses. Okay, so let me copy the table name. Okay, these names must match with our table. Okay, dot c. Okay, here is our employee addresses class. So let's copy the properties. Okay, and now these columns must be added as a properties here. Okay, int id. Okay, and public string address type, public string city, public string country. Okay, and public int employee id. So here are our table classes, employee and employee addresses. So now we have to maintain relationship means we have to create the navigation properties inside of our table classes. We have one to many relationship, right? Here employee will have n number of addresses. Okay. So in the employee table, I have to create a navigation property like it should be a collection of addresses. I have employee addresses must be collection of addresses, right? So I will create a list of employees. Okay, so this is not a table column, this collection, but this is a navigation property that represents the relation between these classes. Same way, employee address, one employee record will have one one employee address will represent to one employee only, right? One record. So here it will be a single object, single employee, one to many relationship. Okay. We haven't defined the relationship directly. We will explicitly explain the relationship like one to many. That will be done inside of the DB context. Okay, we haven't created DB context yet, right? Once we create, we can add our one to many relationship. Okay, now these properties are called the child table or parent table properties we have used here are called navigation properties. Okay, now let's create the database context. Okay, so inside of the data folder, I will create a class like my old DB. Since my database name is my old, so I'm going to create the database context like my old db.context.cs. Okay. Okay, here is our my old DB context class. Currently it is plain class only. To make it DB context class, it must inherit DB context. Okay. That loads from the NT framework core library. Import the namespace. Okay. Now here let's add the constructor. Okay, to this constructor, I have to pass the DB context options. Okay, and type will be our context class only and options to base. These options are nothing but type of provider, connection string, all those things will be injected here. So once we register this DB context in the program.cs file, we know what is that registration. Okay, and those must be passed to actual DB context. Okay, from base. So I have already mentioned to interact with our SQL tables, all the table classes must be registered inside of our DB context class. So let's register our employee class and employee addresses class here. Okay, public DB set employee. Okay, register them as a DB set properties, our table classes. Okay, same way public addresses also. Now context class can interact with the tables that are registered here. Okay. Now to our DB context, we have to specify our one to many relationship, right? So for that, let me override the on model creating method. Okay, protected to override void on model creating. Okay, and it should contains input parameter like model builder. Okay, now here I can specify the relationship between my employee and employee addresses using the Fluent API. Whatever code we write here, that is called Fluent API. Okay, so model builder dot I can use dot entity, and to this entity I am going to pass my employee address. Our employee address have foreign key constant everything, right? So I can define it here. Okay, so here I can specify like has one employee. In employee address, we have one employee entity, right? So has one employee and dot with many. This is called one to many relationship defining. Okay. Here it will give employee address data. Here it will give employee data dot employee addresses. See, in the employee addresses has one employee with many addresses in the employee table. Here we are defining the one-to-many relationship, and here we have to specify the foreign key property in our employee addresses. Okay, that is employee ID. Okay, here we have defined the one-to-many relationship. Okay, now I have created my database context. And also I have added the one-to-many relationship between my parent and the child class as well. Now let's add the connection string in the app settings.development.json file. Okay. So app settings.development.json file here, add connection string and add property like my old DB connection. And here add your connection string, database connection string. So here I added connection string. It is very easy to define the connection string like key value pair separated with the colon. Okay, first key will be the data source equal to name of your server name. Okay, second key will be the initial catalog, nothing but the database. So you have to pass your database name. Okay, and then integrated security. I'm using Windows authentication here. True. Okay, if you want to use username and password authentication, then you have to create two more key value pairs like username and its value, password, its value. Okay, and some connection timeout to 30 seconds. Okay, that much simple. You have to prepare your connection. Now let's register our DbContext in the program.cs file so that it can be used by the DA so that anywhere we can inject our database context. Okay, so go to program.cs file. Okay, always register any service just above this builder.build. Okay, above this line only we have to register any kind of service. Okay, so builder.services.add DbContext and here specify our DbContext type. So my old DbContext. Okay. And import the DbContext namespace. And here let's configure the SQL server provider like use SQL server. Okay. Import the namespace that is Microsoft.int framework core. And to this SQL server, we have to pass our connection string. So to get the connection string, I can use builder.configuration.get connection. To this connection string, we have to pass the property name inside of the connection string property. What is the property name? My old DB context. So copy this and pass it. Okay. So whenever our DB context object is created, these options will be injected into the constructor. I have mentioned, right, some configurations we are passing. Those are nothing but these registered configurations like connection string and the provider. Okay, so that's all about creating SQL table with one-to-many relationship and also implementing that in NT framework using the database context as well. Okay, next we are going to implement. I have already had some sample data in my database, right? First, let me try to implement the read operation. Okay, read means fetching this data from my Razor page and rendering on it Razor page. Okay, I'm going to show how to fetch parent table alone and also including with child table. Both the cases I'm going to show in the read operation. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like my video, please do support me by subscribing as well as by liking the video. Soon we are going to meet with new content. Until then, signing off.